So here's an overview of the final product for the first-person shooter project. A lot of this stuff I'm going to let you guys figure out on your own, but I figured I'd give you guys a few pointers on where to start and what the final product may look like. So I'm going to go ahead and press play, and we'll just get into it. We'll notice that I'm in front of a door that is closed. Can't walk through it. Terminal doesn't work. No prompts telling me what to do. So I'm going to go forward until I come to another door. I have a proximity door set up, so when I get close, it opens. When I back away, it closes. I shoot the first turret, get an explosion, and I'm going to let this second turret kill me. You can see my health in the top being taken down. And whenever I drop below 0, I get a lose message, and the level repeats itself. So let's try this again. I'm going to take out this first turret, grab cover from the other one. Destroy that turret. Walk towards the lit panel. I get a message that says press E to interact. I press E. The doors are unlocked in the level now. So now this door is now unlocked. I walk through into a win room and I win. Alright, that was very basic, the bare bones basic minimum that you have to do to get full credit for the assignment. So there's a lot of things to do in this last little bit of the game. And I have a to-do list right here that I myself made so I could keep track of all the things I needed to do. The first thing I needed to do was to take into account a stat script so I could track the health and ammo of my turrets and my player character. So you can see my stat script. Let me just go ahead and minimize this. You can see my stat script is attached to both my turret and my player, like so. So that was one of the first things I had to do. So let's bring up the stat script real quick. Let me get rid of this toolbox. All right, so at the very minimum, I have 2 floats for health and ammo, but I'll also have a check in the update that goes ahead and checks to see if the current object's health drops below 0, as you can see in that conditional check right here. I have this code collapsed so I don't give away the answers because I want you guys to figure it out yourself. And then under that conditional check, I have 2 more conditional checks. The first one to see if the object is a player whose health drops below 0. Because if it's a player, we want to call the game manager lose function that we'll look at in a second. We want to call a lose to occur, with a lose message to pop up and for the level to restart. But if the object is an enemy, we want to destroy that game object and make an explosion occur. So in my stat scripts, that's where I take into account if the game object, the player character, the turret, if it dies or is destroyed. All right. So that's how I'm handling stats and destruction in my game object. And then update the ammo when the player fires. I just simply go to my shoot function. I make a local variable for my stat script so I can get at my ammo count right here. And then right around here, right after I instantiate my bullet, that's where I update my ammo count right there. And it works pretty good. So now that we got our scripts and explosions and when the player dies taken care of, all in my stats variable, or my stat script rather, I need to take a look at how I can make my doors work. And I've posted a video on the chapter right before this one where it shows you how to make some doors that are driven by proximity. And I have the same kind of setup here. So I'm going to bring up my door controller here. This is the same kind of code that you'll be seeing in the video with one extra caveat, and that's we have a door locked boolean that only allows doors to open to your proximity if this value is false. So in our update, we're constantly seeing if the doors have been unlocked and if this door is locked. So this update function right here is constantly checking to see if you've accessed the panel and unlocked all the doors in the level. Okay, why do we need to have that constantly being checked? Well, because the game doesn't know, whenever you unlock the door. So if it's constantly checking to see if this is locked variable, what the condition is, as soon as we unlock our panel, we'll be able to set this boolean is locked to false. Because in the very start we want to set our doors. Well, what did I do? Did I set it to true or false? Well, if it is locked, sometimes I pose my booleans in the form of a question so I can keep track of whether it should be true or false. So it begins when you declare a variable like a boolean is locked, it initializes as false automatically. So we want to check and see if the doors are locked. Is locked is true. That means you can't open them. Is locked is false. That means you can go through them. So the whole thing about this is we have two different variables, and I'll bring up my interact script right quick. I have a static boolean doors locked variable, and this interact script, is attached. Let me bring out my scene view. Is attached to not the panel itself right here, but I have a interact sphere collider right here. I just took an empty game object and made an interact and called it interact, and just attached a sphere collider to it and made this collider a trigger. And all that's doing is checking to see if the player enters the sphere. If it enters the sphere, then the interact message pops up and we're able to press E on our keyboard to unlock the door. So in our interact script, we have a on trigger stay, meaning as long as we're staying inside of our sphere collider that I just showed you, then we're going to find the Hud Game Object. And you can either do this by assigning I don't have it done like this, a public game object. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. And you can call this Hud. That's a colon. I press save. Then now I get a HUD object, and you can just take your player character, camera HUD, and put it right there. Or actually, what did I do? Well, I did it a little bit separately. So you can either manually just drag your camera HUD script with your HUD script attached to it directly onto your, let me see where the trigger is, directly onto your interact script, because we need to get access to that HUD, because we need to say, yes, we are inside this collider sphere right here. Go ahead and display. Let's see, where's the interact text? Go ahead and display the interact text right here. So we're setting our interact text image to active or inactive. All right. So a lot of these scripts are working in conjunction, such as the door controller and the interact function. So as soon as we press E here, we update our static public static boolean doors locked to false, because the doors are no longer locked. And since this is a static function, we can globally access it in any other script without having to create a local variable for it. So that's what this conditional check does right here. It checks to see if the doors locked boolean has been updated. All right, and it checks and see if this door is locked, because we don't want we don't want the door to always be unlocked. How should I phrase this? I got it. We only want to unlock the door if the is locked boolean right here is true. We don't want to unlock already unlocked doors. That would be stupid. So we want to be able to have two checks here to see if our doors locked global variable, our global static variable here is true, and we want to see if our local public boolean is locked is true as well. All right. So on the Ontriggerenter and all this stuff, we're still in our door controller. This just checks and see if you're inside of our. Let me show you the collider sphere for our doors now. It just checks to see if you've entered this collider I have on my parent door, and I call it auto door. And underneath it, I have door left and door right parented. And in that video, you'll see how you can animate our doors and how you can use the animator window that we're familiar with now and trigger parameters here to play animations for the doors to open and close. And these doors themselves have box colliders on them, so you can't pass through them as long as they're shut together. They have to be open for these colliders to move with our doors for you to be able to walk through. So our door, in essence, all our auto doors are doing is checking to see whether you're inside of our sphere collider here and whether or not you've interacted with our unlock panel right here in our stage. That's the main thing you want to go through. And I got some notes here about what each little line of code does, so you can look and see what they do, like so. I'll zoom in a little bit more. And we've already kind of gone over interact. Like I said, we just have two functions. When you're inside of it, you update the HUD to display the interact UI text message. And then we check and see if the player or the user presses E. And then we update the locked door variable. We update this, the static variable that's globally accessed in our game and mainly used in our door controller here. And then when we exit, we want to just get rid of our UI text. That's all we're doing when we exit. We just want to get rid of our interact text message right here. We just want to pop that on and off whether we enter the collider or whether we exit the collider. All right. So let's check our to-do list. So we've saw how we can make proximity doors. We make the locked boolean. We created a collider in front of our unlocked door panel. And then whenever we enter that collider, we have a message, press E to interact. And then when we press E, it updates that public static variable so that all the doors in the level are now unlocked. And then the UI stuff that's pretty easy stuff. You can look at your space shooter game to find the kind of code that you'll need. It's just the same exact, let's see. It's just the exact same kind of coding here, even though it's on a HUD now instead of a overlaid UI. It's the same kind of updates. The updates are text, and then the same kind of stuff that displays or hides our UI messages on our screen. So this update, like I said, updates our health and ammo. It also controls whether or not we update our interact UI message whenever we get close to our control panel to unlock the doors. All right, so let's go next. And then all we really have to do now is set up win-lose conditions. And I just have a game manager script for that. You can access or go back and look at your physics puzzler game project, and you can kind of copy the same kind of code. I just have the same singleton thing set up where we make the class a public static instance of itself. So meaning we can access our game manager script from any other script in our game. So we can access these win and lose public functions right here. And our void reset just reloads the level and resumes the game speed back to normal time. Because whenever we call our win function, we're going to display a win message on our screen. We're going to reset the door locks on the level so they're all locked again. And we're going to slow time. And then we're going to invoke our reset function right here to reload the level. All right, so that's really all you got to do there. And one more thing, the win condition for the level is set up like this. Same thing I have with my interact little collider trigger here. And notice I have a group called trigger objects. These basically are just little collider objects, empty game objects with collider on them that are triggers. And they dictate whether or not my player's in the correct position. Because whenever I enter this room, I have just this huge win area game object with a really big box collider. So as soon as I step into this box collider, I have a script called win trigger, and it's literally just one line of code that I have attached to my win area. You can see over here in my inspector. Win trigger is attached to my win area object, and basically it just, on the trigger enter function, it just calls my game manager win function that we can see right here. My lose function is called in my stat script. Yeah, when the player health drops to 0 and the object is object's tag is player, meaning my player character. When his health drops to 0, then I call the game manager lose function right here. And that's what restarts the level and displays that red you lose message. So I want to play the game again and kind of walk us through now that we've seen how the code works. All right, so here's my starting position. I can't go through this door right now because my interact static variable, door locked, or is activated. I can't remember what I called it. But the static variable in my interact function says that the doors are locked now. So I can't go through this one. But if the doors are locked, how is this door able to stay open? Well, let me pause this real quick. It's because in my script right here, in my door controller, and I'll go ahead and show you the variables. Let me collapse some stuff over here. I have auto door 1, and let me show you my scene view. So my auto door 0, rather, my first auto door, it has a door controller. Let me hide the not. It has a is locked boolean right here, okay? And my auto door 2 has a boolean for is locked, but it is checked true. So in my code here, this conditional check right here will check and see if the door is locked. If the door is locked and I've interacted with my panel, then it basically looks at all the doors that have a is locked is true and sets it to false. So now that's all that's happening. We're able to look and see that that door is locked. I interact with the panel. Now I can say that the door is not locked anymore. That's a little bit confusing, but you'll probably figure it out once you start messing around with the logic there. So I walk through the door. I walk in through that capsule collider so the door sees me. I'm playing the animation states in my animator window. I walked into the range of my turrets. They're destroying me, so I'm going to hit them 20 times with bullets. I instantiate my explosion and destroy them in my stat script. So my stat script is controlling those explosions. I get to my game panel, and I have that empty game object called interact. So I'll walk into that sphere collider. It pops up that E to interact message. I press E. That was all done in my interact script. Let me pause this. That was all done in my interact script right here. Let me bring it up. So the difference was all that work's done in my on trigger stay right here. So when I get close to my panel, I hit E. It sends out a global variable update, and my door controller is looking to see if I've hit that E button yet, if I've switched the public static, that global variable, to unlocked. And now I can walk through, and my game manager functions being called in that win area and win area script, and that's basically the flow of the game. A lot of confusing moving parts here, but if you just try to stick to this little to-do list and use some of the tips and some of the logic I use, you'll be able to walk through it. All these little tasks right here are things we've already covered in our 2 programming classes so far. So this is kind of like the last programming assignment you have. So I'm trying to test make sure you understand all the logic you need to make some game mechanics with this. All right, so I'm not going to stretch this out any longer. If you have any questions, please jump on them because this is the end of the semester. You don't really have time to miss the due date because final grades are going to be due shortly after your due date here. So you won't have time really to turn in something and then have a question about it and turn in a little bit later. So jump on this assignment, get your questions out. If you get stuck for longer than 10 minutes, please send me an email and I will help you guys out. All right, thanks.